Okay, we are live. Give me a second. I just had an idea. So let me note that down. All right, we are live. Let's go. Let's go. We are back from Montreal and I'm back home. So good to be back home. And we have how many? We have 14 new subscribers. We have 14 new subscribers. You are, I believe, all are my dad's high school friends. So welcome to the group. Welcome to the group. And we have hit 40,000 all-time visionnement or all-time views. So we are happy. A lot of shares happening, a lot of likes happening. So we are three excité. All right, perfect. Met someone amazing on the flight back from Montreal to Vancouver, 5 hour flight, and we had a great conversation, great time, a lot of jokes. What else? I met an Uber driver. I talked to him in French, and he was talking to me. I could understand a lot of things. He was really excited. He turned into a totally different person the moment I was like, "Oh yeah, I can speak French. Je parle le français." And he turned into a totally different person. He was like, yeah, I think this is very similar when you go to Paris or when you go to France, where even though they know English, they don't want to speak English. And the moment you are like, oh no, I speak French, then they turn into a different person. They're like, oh, you are one of us, and now I like you. So it's pretty cool. What else? I met a Uber driver who was from Singapore, and he was talking to me about Singapore a lot. And he was like, all right, so the population is made up of 70% Chinese, then it's Malay, and then it's South Indians. And his family generations, or his family has been there for generations, and he's here for 4 years, and his son is turning 16 or something, and he has to serve in the national service because Singapore is so small. You cannot literally have a army. So pretty much every citizen is member of the army, or every male citizen is member of the army. So that was interesting. What else? On my last trip. I randomly bumped into these two people who were like at Cégep. Cégep is Montreal's version, not version. I think they are the only one who do it. Where after school, after high school, they have this Cégep thing, which is like a preparation to go to university. So that was very interesting. And yeah, I met these two people and at a Burger King last time when I went to Montreal, and then we kept in touch. And this time I was like, hey, let's grab gelato, and then we met, and that was amazing. I met another friend that I met in Montreal just at the smoothie shop. Then I met other people at the smoothie shop. What else? What else? Oh, very interesting trip. A very interesting trip. It's really cool. It's really cool to just keep bumping into people, learning about their stories. And I also met this one guy who works at an art gallery, and there was some art that was really cool. Sometimes there's really beautiful art in front of you, but now that we have been overstimulated, now that we have pretty much seen everything from our phone sitting at our home, we don't really value it. And I literally saw it this thing. I saw this thing. I think I saw this thing. It was right in front of my eyes. Um, it's like distorted. How do we explain it? There is a distorted F1 car, very distorted F1 car, but it looks perfect because there is a lens over here. There's a lens over here. And if you look through that lens, it looks perfect. But to make sure it looks perfect through the lens, the guy has distorted. So distorted the actual car. It looks perfect from the lens, but the actual car is distorted. So very interesting. And it was right in front of me, but I didn't understand the value of it or how cool it is until the art gallery guy showed me, or until he told me about it. And then we had a great conversation about art and stuff. And he told about a simple thing that, hey, if you're a mechanic today, and if you have to go to a mechanic is like, okay, your bill is $1,500. You'd be like, oh shit, 1,500, that's too much, and blah blah blah. And you're like, why do I have to pay 1,500? But on the other hand, for the art gallery, you come over here, and if I say you this painting's $15,000, you're like, I'll pay $15,000. How much is it? I'll pay 15,000. And you're like, oh, thank you so much. I love this art. And then they will invite you to golf trip, for golfing and stuff. So, and buy you champagnes and stuff. So this is very interesting. He's talking about how art is just like a totally different industry, totally different space. And also, I think in art, you just have interesting conversations. In other places, you might be very mechanical, very technical. In art, now you're talking about philosophy, and you're talking about spirituality. You're talking about vibrations, and like you're talking about vibes. You're talking about vibes. You're talking about aesthetics. You're talking about vibes. And Sisa, perfect. All right, so today I actually met this one guy. No, I didn't meet this guy, but I actually just learned from him that okay, we're constantly bombarded by we're constantly bombarded by the world. The moment we wake up, either if you work, that's your email, that's your Slack. If you don't work, that's your TikTok, that's your Instagram, that's your Twitter. So we're constantly bombarded by the world, and the moment you wake up, you are now into other people's world. So how do we make sure that we control at least the space of time? At least how do we at least control some time, right? And I was like, okay, so what do I do? Do I wake up and do meditation? I don't want to do like I tried that. I don't think that really works. But what does work? But this guy said that okay, so what he does is when he wakes up, he doesn't look at his phone, but he would go to a coffee shop and journal over there. And I'm like, okay, I like that because I really like walking in the sun, and I would want to get out of the house. So I think that was really cool. That okay, get out of the house, go to the coffee shop. You are looking in the sun. You are meeting people. Don't interact with them because again, you don't want to engage in someone else's world right away. But go to the coffee shop, get your coffee, and journal. So that's exactly what I did today, and I feel good. And I feel like I'm having some clarity now. What has started happening is that as I have been experimenting a lot every single day, iterating a lot, what has started happening is that you are every day picking up learnings. You're every day picking up learnings, and you want to document them, and then you want to make sure you remember them. So I have this one doc where I keep everything about work and everything about my ideas and how do we want to move ahead. The problem is because I'm iterating so much, because I'm iterating a lot, because I'm getting a lot of data, a lot of market data, that entire space has been cluttered now because I have just put in too many insights over there. But I'm like, I don't think that's how it works. I should have a very clear mission statement or whatever. I should have a very clear mission statement, and that should be kind of like future proof, bulletproof, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And every action should be aligned to that. And I'm like, I think I'm just not committing to one. And the best thing to do is just like pick one. And now as you keep getting market feedback, understand if that makes sense and keep improving on that. So it's never going to be clear, but at least it's important to have the V1, the version 1. And then as you keep getting feedback from the world, you keep iterating on that. You keep working on that. And as long as it works, keep going. So I started with that okay, now I need to have a clear mission statement. I was playing with it that okay, pursue curiosity a mission, but I think mission at the end. And I also had a very interesting insight that I was listening to NVIDIA. I was listening to Lisa, for the CEO of AMD, talk about NVIDIA or something like that. And I'm like, it's so interesting. NVIDIA is the most valuable company in the world. And you don't just become the most valuable company in the world in isolation. Nothing happens in isolation. You don't become the world's most valuable company in isolation because you are a winner. You become the world's most valuable company because you are serving and providing the most amount of value to the world. And if you think from that perspective, then they are building chips, and now they are most valuable because they are helping people. They're helping a lot of people in AI and crypto and gaming, in everything. And they are serving the most. So at the end of the day, it's all about serving. It's all about how many people can you serve, or what kind of value can you provide to people. So I'm like, yeah, there has to be a component of value as well. So I think today I kind of had like one sentence, one idea that kind of makes sense, which is like turning consumers into creators. I had this thought this morning that I believe if you're just consuming and not creating, you don't even know who you really are. Because when you consume, you are just consuming someone else's worldview from their unique experiences, and you don't even know you don't have that context. You are just getting the direct, you are just getting the final lesson out of it, but you don't know the story and you don't know the unique experience, and you don't even care about that because you want to create your own story. Your story is not going to be exactly like them. So that is also very interesting that, yeah, it just popped in my mind that, okay, if you're just consuming, not creating, you don't even know who you really are because you haven't even created, you haven't even had a unique experience from which you can derive your own philosophy. And I think this was also something I learned about, that how do you really learn? How do you get addicted to learning, or how do you love to learn? One of the aspects is that at first you start by consuming other people's advice. Like, let's say I want to learn French. So at first I will start consuming other people's roadmap, other people's advice, that, okay, how did they learn French and what is the advice they are giving me? And then slowly there has to come a time when you create your own, as you keep getting feedback and as you feel like you are getting successful, you create your own thesis. You create your own thesis that, okay, when I do this, I like that. And even though that's not what other people say, that at least keeps me going. And that's what's important. That, okay, if my goal is to learn French, at least by doing this way, which is very unique to me, which is very unique to the way I like, I can keep going and I can keep doing it every day. And that's what matters, right? And like, there are some ways for me as well. What are my unique ways? My unique ways are that I like to talk to Grok and ChatGPT voice mode. So that is one way that I practice my French. I have my phone by default. My phone's default language is French, and I love to scroll on Twitter. So basically, now that I have my phone's default language on French, when I scroll Twitter, when I click on a post, there's a button, traduire la post, which means translate this post. With one click, that entire post is now translated into French. So then what I do is I read the content that I already want to read, all about tech, all about business, all about philosophy, whatever, but mainly about tech and startups and the advancement in the advancement in technology world, right? The stuff that I'm already interested in. Now I'm reading that in French. And that is the most interesting, because when you look at these people who are telling you that, okay, how do you learn French? They are like, oh yeah, watch TV 5 Monde. Oh shit. Watch TV 5 Monde or watch Yugo Crypto or something like that. And I'm like, that is news. And what is happening in news? In news, they're talking about bombs and like Trump and like this bill and that bill. And if I want to learn a language, does that mean I can only learn language by hearing constantly about terrorists and bombs and raids and scams? I don't think so. I don't want to do that. Like, I think that is the problem with learning a language, that you have to learn a language, which means that language has so many words, so many vocabulary, and the only way to learn a language is by consuming a bunch of these patterns and structures constantly. So you constantly have to feed yourself content. And now, at the beginning at least, you have to feed yourself just random amount of content that you might not be interested in, that might not be good for your mental health, but you have to do it, because that is the only way how that languages, patterns and structures will fit in your brain, and your brain will work for you. So yeah, I think that is bad about language learning, that you gotta consume news. And why would you consume news? I don't consume just like a random, I don't have a newspaper, I don't read news every single day, but now I have to do it. So yeah, that is the interesting part about learning a language. What else? We're just talking about a bunch of insights over here. And yeah, I think like for a while, it's been 14 minutes, I've been just talking about insights, talking about stuff. But I think it's really important, like when you have unique experience, you actually talk about it, because other than that, or in general, it's important that when we do these streams, we are learning about other people, we're learning about other people's insights, but it's also important to have a balance about, again, consuming and creating. Perfect. All right, let's now dive into this one post I found. AI is the new plastic. I think the title is pretty cool, and that's the reason I want to read it. It's by AI editor at large, Linus Lee at Notion. All right, perfect. But yeah, even with stream, I want to make sure that there's this really good book, Le Petit Prince, which is kind of the very, what do we say, the most sold book in French, I think so, or most translated book in French. Most translated French book something like that. And it's basically a children's story, but it's kind of pretty good. And it's like, this little kid who is going to different worlds, and these are different worlds. There are these different men who are all optimizing for specific things. There's a king who's optimizing for power. There's a businessman who's optimizing for money. There is this guy, and so this is very interesting. Like, okay, you kind of know that, okay, if you're optimizing for power, yeah, that's stupid. At the end of the day, nobody cares about it. If you're optimizing for money, at the end of the day, after a point, you're just collecting for no reason. You don't really need it. You have more than you will ever spend. Go live life. So that is all cool, but that was then a very interesting person, which is something that I don't want to be. And that there was this person who was like, who who is like researching about travel, who is reading about other people's adventures. So I think there was a point when this Le Petit Prince, the Little Prince, he was actually kind of, at first he was like mesmerized by this guy, or not mesmerized, but like really curious about this guy, because like, oh wow, that is something I would love to do, like read about adventures. That would be so cool. Or yeah, read about adventures and stuff like that. But then he realized this guy is just sitting in his room and just reading about adventures, but never actually going on an adventure. And I'm kind of getting goosebumps right now, but that is something that I don't want to be. That you are just sitting in a room and reading about other people's adventures, and you never go on your own adventure. And that is something we don't want to do. So yeah, other things are very easy to figure out. That, okay, don't get too much, like, don't optimize for too much power. Waste of time, waste of energy. Don't optimize for too much money. Waste of time, waste of energy. Don't optimize for this or that. Don't optimize for too much body muscle. After a point, it's waste of time. To go live life. So there's too many the other things that you can kind of figure out after for yourself. But I think this was very interesting. A person who just reads about other people's adventures but never actually goes on an adventure. All right, and I think this is also, all right, this is also the reason why I think it's really important to have, I want to make sure that this work that we are doing is, the goal is to put what things I'm interested in out there, and ideally find other people who resonate with that. And then this is a channel for me to meet people and have unique experiences with them and have unique conversations and maybe go on adventures with them. This is just my distribution channel. That's what I want to remember. This is not everything. This is just a distribution channel. This is just what gets my brain. I'm just putting my brain out there, putting my curiosities out there. And this is kind of a distribution channel that's acting to attract other like-minded individuals. But Sesa, that's all it should be. This is not everything. All right, perfect. Now finally, we'll go into AI as the new plastic. Let's go. In a recent conversation about design history, I learned about the surprising triumph of plastics in the 50s. Plastics' novel aesthetics, flexibility, and popularity led me to wonder whether it could be a useful metaphor for understanding the progress of AI and how we should view AI as a new building material. The Roaring Twenties are remembered for the rise of Art Deco's intricately. Actually, let's search Art Deco, because Art Deco is mentioned a lot. Yeah, look at this. So this building is the definition of Art Deco, and this looks very similar to A16Z. A16Z had a rebranding, and that looks like Art Deco. What is this? A peek through history. Art Deco is back and it's louder than ever. Wow. Chrysler Building. Wow. The century-old style is back in fashion. Yes, more of this. Look at this, neoclassical and Art Deco features into luxurious interiors. Wow, wow, wow. Century on Art Deco is stylish as ever. Oh wow, I didn't know the Chrysler building looked this cool. Wow. Wait, is this the same or is this edited? I think it's the same. Okay. Wow. Wow. The sunlight. And this is actually cool. Like the building is gray, but because of sunlight, it turns into this beautiful color. Art Deco. Art Deco. Chicago's World Fair. Okay. Beautiful. Beautiful. All right. The Roaring Twenties are remembered for the rise of Art Deco's intricately shaped steel and glass. The Jet Age brought us sweeping futuristic curves inspired by new materials like aluminium. The Jet Age. Okay. The Jet Age, Robert Jackson. True Tales of the Air since 1945. Wow, look at this photo. Wow. Into the Jet Age speeding through blood red skies, warlord community. The birth of the Jet Age. Hey, Jet Age sounds cool. We'll look at a Jet Age. Okay, back. Let's go back. Bro, sweeping futuristic codes inspired by new materials like aluminium. The information age so far seems visually defined by the black glass and bluish glow of computer screens. Black glass and bluish glow of computer screens as our most important building blocks become software and information rather than physical materials. But no building block conquered the world as quickly and as thoroughly as plastic. Less than a century after its invention, plastic proliferated in our offices, our vehicles, our clothing, our kitchens. It's virtually impossible to go more than a few minutes without interacting with something that is composed in part of synthetic polymers. Plastic's arrival was a transformational moment in human history. This new material differed from its predecessors in several crucial ways, which made it widespread very quickly. And once I started thinking about it, reminded me a lot of AI. Made it widespread very quickly, and once I started thinking about it, reminded me a lot of AI. Okay, this is a very interesting analogy. Let's say plastic's arrival was an information moment in human history. I decided to probe this idea further to see what I might learn about where AI is headed. Plastic is efficient. Until plastic came on the scene, we built everything from kitchenware to automotive interiors out of naturally occurring materials like wood, metal, glass, cotton, and leather, which are of limited supply. You can't just manufacture more leather or wood. Okay, this is very interesting. Like people talk about how the entire world is kind of vanilla, but it's also true that the most efficient materials gives us abundance, but the most efficient materials also give us the look of sameness. The most efficient tools give us abundance, but they also give us the notion of everything now looks the same. Wow. Okay, that's a good tweet. Let's read that. We'll tweet that. The most efficient tools give us abundance, but they also give us the notion of everything now looks the same. The most efficient tools give us abundance. The most efficient tools give us abundance, but they also give us the notion of everything now looks the same. Let's see if ChatGPT can help us make this more sharp. The most efficiency breeds abundance, but also sameness. The best tools flood us with abundance, then flatten it all into a uniformity. Wow, this is good. We gain more than ever, but it all starts to look the same. Tools of abundance blur the edges of uniqueness. We gain more than ever, but it all starts to look the same. Wow, that is also cool. We gain more than ever, but it also starts to look this all over. But it all starts to look the same. The most efficient tools flood us with abundance, then flatten it all. The most efficient tools flood us with abundance, but it all starts to look the same. The most efficient tools flood us with abundance, but then it all starts to look the same. Okay. Let's see if this makes sense. We gain more than ever. The most efficient tools flood us with abundance, but then it all starts to look the same. Same for plastics. The most efficient tools flood us with abundance, but then it all starts to look the same. Not bad. Let's go. Post. And then we also post on Forecaster. Alright, back. Until plastic came on the scene, we built everything from kitchenware to automotive interiors out of naturally occurring materials like wood, metal, glass, cotton, and leather, which are of limited supply. You can't just manufacture more leather or wood. You have to wait for it to grow. AI, like plastic, is an entirely new and fully synthetic intelligence that's more affordable, versatile, and durable than naturally occurring intelligence, the work that living things do with our hands and minds. Wow. AI, actually, I should post this. Okay. AI, like plastic, is an entirely new and fully synthetic intelligence that's more affordable, versatile, and durable than naturally occurring intelligence, the work that living things do with our hands and minds. This new synthetic intelligence can, like plastic, be mass manufactured, stamped out in identical forms of all shapes and sizes, injection molded for every possible use case. And unlike human intelligence, its supply isn't limited by natural resources. Okay, we gotta post this. This and this. Okay. Okay, I will delete that. Supprime. And delete. I'll cost you a new one. Perfect. And okay, we'll have to screenshot it again. And go. Alright, perfect. Until last came on the scene, we built everything from kitchenware to automotive interiors out of naturally occurring materials like wood, metal, glass, cotton, and leather, which are limited supply. You can't just manufacture more leather or wood, you have to wait for it to grow. AI like plastic is entirely new and fully synthetic intelligence that's more affordable, versatile, and durable than naturally occurring intelligence. The work that living things do with our hands and minds. This new synthetic intelligence can, like plastic, be mass manufactured, stamped out in identical forms of all shapes and sizes, injection molded for every possible use case, and unlike human intelligence, its supply isn't limited by natural sources. Injection molded for every possible use case, and unlike human intelligence, its supply isn't limited by natural sources. Today's AI models enable the mass manufacturing specific molds of rote work, like organizing and answering questions about documents, freeing humans from routine tasks so our more valuable labor can attend to collaborating with each other or making higher stake decisions. Plastic is adaptable. Organic materials like leather and glass aren't particularly versatile. Okay, we're feeling hot. Organic materials like leather and glass aren't particularly versatile. Then carpenters invented ways to bend and sculpt what those innovations constituted breakthroughs. Industrial design introducing new vocabulary to the design language of furniture designers. Plastic, by contrast, is infinitely flexible. It can be adapted to almost any form, from thin films for packaging to robust load bearing structures for furniture. Plastic doesn't just change the way existing products are built, it enables us to build entirely new kinds of products in entirely new ways. When carpenters invented new ways to bend and sculpt, were those innovations considered breakthroughs in industrial design, introducing new vocabulary to the design language of furniture designers. Plastic is infinitely flexible. It can be adapted to almost any form, from thin films for packaging to robust load-bearing structures for furniture. Plastic doesn't just change the way existing products are built, it enables us to build entirely new kinds of products in entirely new ways. Today's AI models like GPT can help solve many different kinds of problems out of the box. Before, if you wanted to build something custom, whether it was a content generator, a chatbot, or analysis tool, you would need a team of engineers grinding away for weeks or months. Now, with a few prompts, you can adapt these AI models to handle all kinds of tasks. Like plastic, it's a shapeshifter. Shapeshifter. Think about how plastic revolutionized everyday products and made things like lightweight, shatterproof water bottles and ergonomic keyboards possible. Wow, that makes sense. Ergonomic keyboards, yes. Packaging got smaller and more efficient, and devices became easier to handle. In the same way, I believe AI is going to reshape how we work with computers. We can look forward to conversation interfaces that feel as natural as talking to a coworker, or search tools so smart it's like they can read your mind. These new AI models will unlock new ways to boost creativity and productivity, just like plastic opened up a whole world of design possibilities. Plastic enables novelty. Plastic enabled entirely new kinds of products: Lego bricks, Tupperware, and manufacturing processes, 3D printing, extrusion, that weren't just improvements on existing techniques but plastic native products and techniques. Entirely new kind of products: Lego bricks, Tupperware, and manufacturing processes that weren't just improvements on existing techniques but plastic native products and techniques. The future will see completely new ways of getting work done and interacting with information. To me, the search for AI native tools and workflows is one of the most compelling areas of exploration in machine learning today. The search for AI native tools and workflows is one of the most compelling areas of exploration in machine learning today. We're seeing early signals of what the future may hold. For example, though they aren't perfect yet, today's LLMs can read and instantly answer questions relating to millions of words or hours of video content. We're seeing early signals of what the future may hold. For example, though they aren't perfect yet, today's LLMs can read and instantly answer questions relating to millions of words or hours of video content. They can be always on. They can be trained once on an expert subject like coding or cooking and distributed to every human on the planet at a little extra cost. Read and instantly answer questions relating to millions of words or hours of video content. They can be always on. They can be trained once on an expert subject like coding or cooking and distributed to every human on the planet at little extra cost. How could the future of research or law change with tools that can read thousands of pages in a second? Totalement, totalement. What happens to creativity when every human can get an expert to teach them how to learn new tools and instruments? Explodes. Explosion. What could possibly go wrong? AI's promise of progress is undeniable, but we learn with plastic that progress has its price. Plastic's proliferation, after all, was not without downsides. Plastic doesn't naturally decompose, exacerbating waste problems. It also breaks down into small particles that infiltrate our ecosystems and bloodstreams. Yeah, this is so interesting. This is so interesting. Plastic gave us scale, but it had its problems. It doesn't decompose. So now, the next iteration of the technology is how do you build something that is natural, that decomposes, but can scale like plastic? Plastic's proliferation, after all, was not without downsides. Plastic doesn't naturally decompose, exacerbating waste problems. It also breaks down into small particles that infiltrate our ecosystems and bloodstreams, causing long-term harm that we are only beginning to fully understand. That doesn't mean we would be better off if plastic had never been invented. Without synthetic polymers, we would still be using natural materials for even the most mundane, disposable objects and wouldn't enjoy such abundance of everything from clean, disposable syringes in hospital to bike helmets. That is true. Just look at your keyboard. Look at your entire work setup. Most of it is plastic. I don't know really. I think this is aluminum. But anyways, my keys are plastic though. Yes, keys are plastic. Yes. Without synthetic polymers, we would still be using natural materials for even the most mundane disposable objects and wouldn't enjoy the abundance of everything from clean, disposable syringes in hospitals to bike helmets. But the unintended consequences of remaking our physical world with synthetic polymers just remind us to be mindful of many risks this emerging technology poses, from job displacement to the load of global energy consumption. To the more dystopian scenarios we have all heard about, in which AI makes catastrophic decisions that can be undone. It helps to remember that while plastic is ubiquitous, it didn't take over the world completely. When I walk through the Notion office every day, I see plenty of plastic here, and here in chair, armrests, and computer monitors. But some of my favorite spaces are couches, plush with soft fabric, wooden benches that add warmth, or cafeteria ergonomic sculptures made of everything from paper origami to steel wires. Despite how far industrial design has come, our technology has yet to obviate the unique magic of natural materials. As we ponder our AI future, we should remember that, like plastic, AI isn't a replacement for all that came before. It's a new color in our palette, a new material in our workshop. Our job is to learn how to wield it skillfully to create a world that's not just more efficient and productive, but also more vibrant, more creative, and fundamentally more human. Nice. Linus Lee. Oh, I cannot see Linus Lee's other post. Interesting. Anyways, let's go here. And something I was curious about. Tell me about global energy consumption due to rise of AI. Let's see what we get. Whoa, quick answer. That is cool. That is cool. That is cool. Okay. The rise of AI is significantly increasing global energy consumption, primarily due to the energy intensive nature of data centers that power AI models. Current usage 24 data centers globally consume approximately 415 to 500 terawatt hours of electricity, accounting for about 1 to 1.5% of global electricity demand. AI specific consumption is estimated at around 20 terawatt hour, or 0.02% of total global energy consumption. By 2030, electricity demand from data centers is expected to By the way, as I'm reading this, I'm just realizing that what is the goal of, if you look at Coinbase, what is the goal of Coinbase, or especially Base, let's say? Jesse, his goal is like, okay, I want to bring 1 billion people on chain. 1 billion people on chain. Hmm. But that doesn't mean that they are still creating, you are still bringing. I think, okay, if your goal is simply to bring people more, bring people on chain, and if you know that most people are just going to be consuming, like if you look at what are some billion user platform like Instagram, 96-97% of those users are just consumers. So basically you want to bring consumers, so basically you want to feed like Instagram, so basically you want to flood, you want that same mechanism of a feed of very interesting content and a really lively ecosystem. So that's the reason now they have forecaster feed. But anyways, let's go over here. Here, specific consumption estimated around 20 terawatt hour or 0.02% of total global energy consumption. By 2030, electricity demand from data centers is expected to more than double, equivalent to the current electricity consumption of Japan or India. AI is the primary driver, with AI optimized data centers projected to quadruple the electricity used by 2030. In the United States, data centers could account for nearly half of the growth in electricity demand by 2030, surpassing the energy used for manufacturing energy intensive goods like steel and cement. In Ireland, data centers already consume 70 to 20% of national electricity, projected to double by 2026. China and the US are expected to drive nearly 80% of global data center electricity growth, with increases of 240 terawatt hour and 70 to 60 terawatt hour respectively by 2030. Why AI is energy intensive? Training and inference. Training large language models like GPT-3 requires, maybe we should have done Grok 4. Okay, I don't know why it's talking GPT-3, that's so irrelevant. Requires significant computational power, consuming around 1300 megawatt hour, equivalent to the annual electricity use of 130 US homes. Inference running queries is also energy heavy. Single ChatGPT query uses about 2.9 watt hour, 10 times more than a Google search. If all 9 billion daily Google searches used AI, an additional 10 to 29 terawatt hour would be consumed annually, comparable to Ireland's electricity use. Wow. Hardware. AI relies on energy intensive graphics processing unit and specialized accelerators, increasing data center power density. Since 2070, the shift to AI specific hardware has doubled data center electricity consumption globally. This is very interesting because these GPUs are gonna get cheaper and cheaper, but also they're gonna get more efficient and efficienter. They're gonna get more efficient, but also there's gonna be an abundance of AI queries. So you will need more and more. You will need to buy more and more GPUs. So this is gonna be very interesting. I think when Satya Nadella talks about the Jevons paradox, I think that is true. That is true. Like, people are slowly moving to LLMs. People are moving to LLMs because that is providing a better answer, and that is a net improvement on the user experience. But that is also energy intensive. That is also slow right now. Voice mode. If you look at voice modes are getting so much better, and you can clearly see how much Jevons paradox, they mentioned it over here. How much power would something like that need? If we talk about a ChatGPT query taking 10 times Google search, what about these voice modes, which are so good, Data centers require significant cooling, consuming 4.2 to 6.6 billion cubic meters of water by 27, rivaling Denmark's annual water withdrawal. 22 Google data centers use 5 billion gallons of fresh water for cooling. Wow. Rivaling Denmark's annual water withdrawal. Environmental impacts. Carbon emissions. AI-driven data center growth could add 1.7 gigaton of greenhouse gas emissions between 25 and 30, equivalent to Italy's energy-related emissions over 5 years. Tech giants like Microsoft and Google have reported emission increases of 30 and 50% since 2020 and 2019, respectively, due to AI-driven data center expansion. IMF. More abundant power supplies to keep driving economic growth. Will AI reduce emissions or increase power demand? Efficiency improvements in AI hardware and software may lead to increased consumption due to higher demand, offsetting gains. More efficient AI could lead to more queries. That's right, it will lead to more queries. That is the better way to do it. It's very interesting how people talk about implementation or what's the better word? What's the better word? It's like technology is already good. Now the problem is that still 90% of people are not using it to its maximum capacity. Critical minerals. AI data centers increase demand for minerals like lithium and nickel used in renewable energy infrastructure to power them, raising concerns about supply chain constraints and geopolitical risk. Geopolitical risks. Potential benefits on medication. Efficiency gains. AI can optimize energy systems such as improving renewable energy forecasting, load shifting, and predictive maintenance, potentially reducing emissions in other sectors. For instance, AI could cut global emissions by up to 10% by 2030 if applied effectively. AI can optimize energy systems such as improving renewable energy forecasting, load shifting, and predictive maintenance, potentially reducing emissions in other sectors. For instance, AI could cut global emissions by up to 10% by 2030 if applied effectively. Mitigation strategies. Energy efficient hardware. Advances in GPU efficiency and quantum computing could reduce AI's energy footprint. Energy efficient hardware. Advances in GPU efficiency and quantum computing could reduce AI's energy footprint. Optimize scheduling. Shifting AI workloads to off peak times or regions with renewable energy can save 12 to 15% of energy. It has high data center energy costs, but there are solutions. Energy efficient hardware. Advances in GPU efficiency and quantum computing will reduce AI's energy footprint. But again, G1's paradox. You will keep increasing the efficiency, but the usage will keep increasing. So it's going to be a counterbalance, constant counterbalance. Shifting AI workloads to off-peak time or regions with renewable energy can save 12 to 15%. I'm surprised there is no, yeah. Why is there no mention of nuclear energy over here? Using cloud-based or shared data centers can centralize and reduce energy use compared to private facilities. Researchers urge tech companies to disclose actual energy use for better tracking. Natural gas is expected to meet half of the data center demand by 2030, though fossil fuels reliance remains a concern. Lack of transparency from tech companies makes precise AI energy consumption estimates difficult. Current figures rely on approximations and industry projections. Local grid strain. Geographic concentration in Virginia or Singapore strains local grids, with some US states seeing over 10% of electricity consumed by data centers. GPU production and energy infrastructure expansion may limit AI growth, potentially capping energy demand but also delaying deployment. Some calling it unsustainable and comparing daily ChatGPT consumption to that of 180,000 US households. Others note AI's potential to exacerbate climate misinformation, complicating environmental efforts. Optimists like Bill Gates argue AI-driven efficiency gains could offset energy costs, but critics warn that emissions and resource demands may outweigh benefits without strong governance. How much energy does a ChatGPT voice mode query consume? No. Think about it. No quick answer. Somebody call this. What do they call it? Turtle flow. So this is interesting. You ask a question to Grok, and then Grok is like, I'm thinking deeply about it. I'll give you the best answer. But then you're like, no, I don't have time. Quick answer. So this is cool. If you want quick answer, it will always think deeply, but if you want quick answer, you can click that button. Investigating web. So there are a lot of interesting stuff happening. There was one thing that was on my mind. What was on my mind? I forgot. I had something on my mind. But anyways, let's see where this is going. Reflexion. How much power does ChatGPT 4.0 voice mode use per query? Energy consumption of ChatGPT voice mode queries. Rahul J. Mathur. Oh, this is so cool. A typical ChatGPT query consumes 0.34 watt hour of energy, equivalent to having 60 watt light bulb on for 15 seconds. At 1 billion queries per day, energy consumption is equivalent to that of a US town with 12,000 households. Sam Altman released a new blog post after a 4-month hiatus, sharing 3 more memorable paragraphs from this blog. Already more powerful than any human who has ever lived, and it is more intensive than anything we have ever seen before. Cognition and memory. Has seen the arrival of agents that can do real cognitive work. Writing computer code will never be the same. Novel insights and creation will likely see the arrival of systems that can figure out novel insights. Entering the physical realm may see the arrival of robots that can do tasks in the world. Future of jobs. Past to today. A subsistence farmer from 1,000 years ago would look at what many of us do and say we have fake jobs. Today to future, in the 2030s, intelligence and energy ideas and the ability to make ideas happen are going to become widely abundant. These two have been the fundamental limiters on human progress for a long time. Displacement will occur. There will be very hard parts, like whole classes of jobs going away, but on the other hand, the world will be getting so much richer so quickly that we'll be able to seriously entertain new policy ideas we never could before. Alright, here we are. Exact figure is not publicly available. Recent analysis, primary text space, estimates for, okay, 0.3 to 0.34 watt hours. For shorter queries, 0.3. Longer inputs can reach 2.5. Very long context, 200 pages may use up to 40 watt hour. Okay. Benchmark study estimates 0.43 watt hour for a single short 4.0 query, scaling to substantial impacts at high volumes. Conservation for voice mode. Multimodal, native to multimodal processing, meaning it handles audio directly without separate speech to text or text to speech models. This could increase energy use due to higher input data volume, audio sampling at higher rates for tone, speed, background noise detection, additional output generation synthesizing natural sounding speech with emotion or accents, real-time processing for low latency response. Wow, so much stuff is happening. It's looking at your tone, your speed, making sure it removes the background noise, making sure to detect what is background, what is foreground, and then removing the background. Synthesizing natural sounding speech with emotion or accents. So not only respond, but respond with emotions and accent, intonations. Wow. Token counts for voice conversations are unclear, but a 10 to 30 second speech segment might equate to 100 to 300 tokens, or more, potentially pushing energy closer to the higher end of text estimates. Okay. Video sharing, screen sharing, real-time translation. Add further compute, likely increasing consumption. Yes. Water usage related to cooling data centers. A typical query uses 1/15 teaspoon. Wow. Wow. So every time you ask a question to ChatGPT, it's using 1/15 teaspoon of water to cool the data centers. Voice mode will slightly increase this due to more intensive processing. Comparisons equivalent to a Google search from 2009. 10x less than outdated to 2023 estimates for earlier models. 10x less, okay. So ChatGPT may not be as power hungry as once assumed. A commonly cited stat is that ChatGPT requires around 3 1 hour of power to answer a single question, or 10 times as much as Google search. For heavy users, 100 queries per day daily energy is 30 to 40 watt hour, a fraction of a US household's average per day. Wow, very, very interesting. Very interesting. As data center production gets automated, the cost of intelligence should eventually converge to near the cost of electricity. People are often curious about how much energy a ChatGPT query uses the average user. Okay, so that's pretty much the same. Where are all the OpenAI data centers located? Let's see. Find locations of all OpenAI data centers. All right, let's see. Microsoft Azure, so they do not have their own physical centers. Okay, smart. Platform.openai.com. Number of tokens used for tool specific models like search and company use theirs. Fee per tool call. Cash input, output $10. Endpoints. Chat completions, responses, assistance, fine tuning, batch, real time, voice not available. Streaming, structured output, distillation, function calling, fine tuning predicted outputs. Web search, image generation, file search, code interpreter, MCP. Rate limits, batch queue limit, DPM. So these are the featured models right now. So many models, wow. Featured models are 4.1, 04 mini, and 03. Our most powerful reasoning model is 03. Faster, more affordable reasoning model is 04 mini. Flagship or complex task. 04 mini, 03, 03 Pro, more compute, 03 mini, 01. Okay. Complex multi-step task, versatile high intelligence flagship models, 4.1, 4.0. So reasoning is it takes time. It takes time to understand the question. And flagship models are just like response, question, response. 4.1, 4.0, 4.0 audio, ChatGPT 4.0. Okay. There's a difference between ChatGPT 4.0 and GPT 4.0. Interesting. Cost optimized models. Okay. Deep search models, 03, 04, real time, for real time. Oh, this is for audio. Okay, model capable of real time text and audio inputs and outputs. Okay, image generation, ChatGPT image 1. State of the art image generation model, DALL-E 3. Oh, so now they have renamed it. It's called just image 1. DALL-E 2, DALL-E 3, image 1, GPT image 1. Text to speech, TTS. GPT 4.0 mini. Transcription, transcribe. Whisper. Did they acquire Whisper? Transcription. Speech to text model powered by GPT 4.0. GPT 4.0 transcribe. Tool specific models, search preview. Web search and chat completions. Codex mini latest computer use preview. Embeddings. Convert text into vector representation. Omni moderation. Find a model that detects whether input may be sensitive or unsafe. Omni moderation. Potentially harmful context. Text moderation. Omni moderation. Older. Turbo. Babbage. Chat GPT based models. Untrained with instruction following Da Vinci. Wow. So many models. hosted across various Azure regions with options for data residency to comply with regional regulations. Stargate Project 500 billion initiative announced in January 25. Partners Oracle, SoftBank, NVIDIA, Cisco. UAE-based G42 planning massive new AI-specific data centers to support future growth. Current hosting. Processed in Azure data centers, eligible customers able to select data residency in specific geographies to meet compliance needs. United States, Europe, Netherlands, North Europe, and Ireland. Community reports note a high concentration of processing in the Netherlands, likely due to Azure's energy-efficient facilities and favorable climate for cooling. Yeah, this is very interesting. The cold areas like Canada, Russia, they will have, that's where data centers will accumulate at the end of the day. You cannot have data centers in, yeah, like how do you have data centers in a place like UAE, other Canada? You will obviously need things in Canada. Introducing data residency in Europe, Japan, South Korea, Singapore, India. Yeah, very interesting. How do you do this in a really Spotify, Santander, startups and large enterprises including Booking.com, that's Netherlands, Zalando, Klarna, Oxford, Estee Lauder, Swiss-based Scania. Yeah, I think they need to also fix this. Like too many model names now. They should just have one. This is the most important thing. Oh, this is a new plastic. Okay, we were here. Azure spread across 60 plus regions globally. Stargate project, new and planned data centers. A joint venture to build AI infrastructure. Stargate aims to create gigawatt scale campuses, each potentially consuming 1 gigawatt plus of power equivalent to a small city's needs. Purpose-built for AI training inference, addressing the limitations relying solely on cloud providers. United States, Abilene, Texas, Wyoming. Why would they do in Texas? Texas, it's going to be so hot in the summer. There's a balance between where you can get cheap land, where you can build quickly, versus the weather. Wow. In Texas, it's going to be so hot in the summer. How it will require so much more water for cooling. The flagship Stargate site under construction since why is OpenAI building data center in Texas when that place gets really hot in summer and would require even more water for cooling? Abilene, Texas, flagship Stargate site under construction since early 2025. Let's see if we have photos. 500 billion project to build a number of massive data centers across the US for the AI developer. Crusoe is the company, secures 11.6 billion in debt and equity for opening a Stargate data center campus. This place looks hot. Why is a data center over here? OpenAI just confirmed Texas as the flagship state for Project Stargate. Expandable to 1 gigawatt plus 430-acre site and will house hundreds of thousands of NVIDIA GPUs. Wow. So interesting. All this space is being constructed to put NVIDIA's GPUs. It's expected to be partially operational by 26. So NVIDIA doesn't really have to do any work in making sure the product is being used. The product is so good and the product is so much in demand that other people will take the risk. They will find the places, lease the land, buy or whatever contract out to Crusoe and be like, hey, go build, go take their product, put it into, put it on this land, make a nice cover around it, make sure it's cool, make sure it's running. Wow. Funding reaching 11.6 billion for expansion to 8 buildings. Additional Texas sites are in evaluation, including Colorado City, Barber Lake. SoftBank's investment in Cipher Mining. Exploring 16 states. Issued RFPs. 5 to 10 additional gigawatt scale campuses. States under consideration: Arizona, California. I don't think you can build in California. Florida, Louisiana, Maryland, Nevada, New York, Ohio, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Utah, Texas, Virginia, Washington, Wisconsin, West Virginia. Site visits have occurred in Pennsylvania, Oregon, and Wisconsin. Site visits. They are like, if OpenAI, if more than 2 OpenAI employees are flying to your state, it's a site visit. This expansion aims to create thousands of jobs or faces challenges like power availability, water usage, and environmental concerns. Potential site for a new Oracle OpenAI data center, which would be the state's 14th. Cheyenne, home to the most Wyoming data centers, is a likely candidate. United Arab Emirates, a massive 5 gigawatt plus campus spanning 10 square miles, while larger than Monaco, in partnership with G42, Oracle, NVIDIA, Cisco, and SoftBank. The first phase is slated for 26 with a full capacity by 2028 to 2030. The Stargate UAE project includes free ChatGPT Plus for UAE residents. It focuses on AI and education, healthcare, and energy. Wow. This is like the entire country's cutting deal for a subscription. Hey, $20 per month for everybody. It's tied to US UAE AI deals and with equivalent investments required in US facilities. This is so interesting. Like, the UAE government is thinking more from a perspective that, hey, how do we become a place with the smartest people? You know, when your residents are smart, you know, there's a quote, right? You are as strong as your weakest link. Your chain is as strong as your weakest link, which means your country is as strong as your weakest citizens, your weakest residents. So if you can make your average resident use ChatGPT, you can be like, hey, ChatGPT is free for you, go use it and be more smart and make better decisions and use voice mode and always have it on call. Like, if that is saving so much time, right? Like, that is just helping the government as well. And the government can now invest in having more services, such that having more services for the residents, so that it can serve the residents, and residents will be served faster. And now you attract more businesses over there, because you are like, okay, every resident in this country is smart, and every resident in this country is kind of using ChatGPT, voice mode, whatever, and they understand how to use AI. They are smart. They make better decisions because of it, and the services are faster over here by the government, because they don't really need the traditional services when everybody can just do their work over ChatGPT. They don't really need to go to an office and stuff. We don't need to cater for people like specifically like that. That makes everything so much easier. That makes everything so much easier. And now businesses will be attracted to that, because they're like, okay, we can do business fast. There's smart people we can hire. Everything just works so smoothly over here. Everything would be done by ChatGPT. Wow. AI Pacific planned. OpenAI is scouting locations in Japan, South Korea, Australia, and other countries for future Stargate data centers and expand global AI infrastructure. Disagreements over site selection, financing partnership between OpenAI and SoftBank, grid strain, and environmental impacts like high water consumption, drought-prone areas. Bruh. Abilene is a drought-prone area. How does this make sense? Why would you do that? Okay, this is pretty cool. You have both in one. OpenAI SoftBank dispute slows down Trump's AI mega project Stargate. involves investing 500 billion in computing infrastructure across the country has been slowed by disputes with location of data centers. Bruh. This new OpenAI Oracle data center is in Abilene, Texas, which defaulted on debt due to a drought last year. The location of the new data center follows a pattern. Many data centers tend to be situated in drought-prone areas. What? It's finding the financing and building the massive data center needs to meet its ambitions is easier said than done. For computing capacity. Strategic economic infrastructure advantage that prioritize the project's massive energy needs over environmental challenges like summer heat and water scarcity. Increasing water usage for evaporative systems. Calculate trade-off with mitigations in order to address sustainability concerns. Inaugural site. Rapid scaling of enable the rapid scaling of AI infrastructure. Gigawatt scale facilities that power advanced AI models, emphasizing US AI leadership and reindustrialization. Abundant and reliable energy supply. Enormous power. Texas stands out for its ability to provide this at scale thanks to its independent grid, vast natural gas reserves, growing renewable energy capacity. Uninterrupted power for energy-intensive AI workloads. This was a decisive factor as other locations might face grid constraints or delays in energy procurement. Economic incentives and business-friendly environment. Low-cost land. Tax breaks, streamlined regulations that accelerate construction. Quoted the project with promises of job creation. 57 direct jobs at the site and economic growth. This aligns with broader US policy under the Trump administration to boost domestic AI infrastructure, including side benefits like free AI tools for locals. Landscape and Crusoe further reduce costs through joint ventures. National security initiative to outpace competitors like China in AI compute. Pro-business climate proximity to energy resources, avoiding regulatory hurdles, states like California, stricter environment rules. Faster build-out critical for training next-gen models like GPT-5. Outbuild China to avoid dependency on foreign compute. Expandable campus up to 10 to 20 buildings, 90,000 plus square feet by mid-26, allowing phased growth. Wow, Texas summers 38 degrees. Indeed, amplify cooling needs as data centers generate immense heat from GPUs and servers. Traditional evaporative cooling evaporates water to dissipate this heat, consuming millions of gallons annually, exacerbating Texas' ongoing drought and straining local supplies. Deep in water crisis. 2 liters per 50 queries. Already faces grid and water strains of similar projects. Advanced cooling technologies targets employs immersion cooling, submerging servers in non-conductive liquids. More efficient and reduce water dependency compared to air-based methods. Oh, okay. Submerging servers in non-conductive liquids. Zero water designs with heat reuse potential for nearby heating. Integrating these to battle physics constraints. Okay, that is cool. When Sam Altman stood under the baking Texas sun near Albany, he unveiled humanity's boldest gamble yet. Algorithms or compute, you can't separate them. 60 employees. Liberate humanity for meaningful pursuits. we might not build fast enough for what's coming. Wow. Okay, interesting. We'll look into this later on and more in future. But